Hmm, here we go. The webinar's being recorded. Awesome. Okay, so for those of you that don't know Andrea, most of you might have met Andrea previously on a webinar that we did that was a general webinar open to the public, but this is a exclusive for ISCD only students. So Andrea, did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your career and at Dulux?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Andrea Lucena-Orr. I'm from Dulux Group, and I've been with Dulux, the group, for actually just on 34 years, so a long time. I've done many roles at the company, including my background is actually accounting and IT. So I pivoted about 28 years ago or something because I loved interior design just as a general passion. And I went back to uni and I did interior design, and then I obviously found myself at Dulux, so I transferred within the business. And and now I've in the last 20 plus years, I've been working in the colour team, obviously doing colour trends. So it's our 25th anniversary for colour trends next year, or Dulux Colour Forecast next year. And we started that back in 1991, believe it or not. Sorry, not 1991. What am I saying? In 1999, we started Colour Forecast. And I also started the Dulux Colour Design Service for Dulux as well. So that was an idea I had because I was doing a lot of interior design work on weekends when I was still studying, and saw a real gap in the market. So, and that service has been going for about 26 or 27 years now. So a long time as well. Yeah, which is great. Yeah, so I'm very passionate about colour. I'm part of the Colour Marketing Group, which is an international association, not-for-profit organisation for anyone that manufactures colour or works in colour from a lecturing perspective. And we basically catch up once a year or twice a year in conferences, which is wonderful, and just obviously understand where markets are, what markets are doing, because depending on, you know, we're obviously in the interiors market, but, you know, there's a lot of other different markets that like automotive or could be fashion. There's so many different elements. Yeah, so that's me.
Fantastic. So today you're about to take us through the 2023 colour trend forecast. Could you just tell us a little bit about the process and how you come to actually creating these three awesome themed forecasts?
Sure. So we look at a number of factors. So we obviously look at macro trends internationally, but also micro trends as well. The Australian market closely looks at what European markets are doing when it comes to interiors and fashion. So we have a very big influence in that area. So we obviously, normally in a normal year, we would obviously go to the launch of trends, which is normally Milan Design Week. This year we didn't get there because they moved it forward by a couple of months due to the Omicron variant. But luckily I've got one of my associates from Colour Marketing Group who lives in Milan. So she was able to do a very thorough report for us this year, which was fantastic. And next year we're already booked to go. So that's really good. It's back in April next year. We also are part of Colour Hive, which is, they have a magazine called the Mix Magazine, and we get seminars from them one-on-one twice a year on trends of where interiors are going. So they look at innovations, they look at many other macro trends as well, but ultimately they give us colour and texture as well. We also, obviously there's a minefield of different sites that we look at, and we also have other agencies, and we also have our European businesses. We have businesses now in France and London, and many other areas throughout Europe. So we get a lot of information from them as well. So it's all well and good. We get all of this fantastic information. You know, some of it is on financial, some of it is on what's going on in the political arena, might be fashion based, it might be technology based. So we obviously have to take in all of those different factors. But interestingly, we don't just take that information and say, okay, that's where our colours are going. We have to filter it for the Australian and New Zealand marketplace, because not all colours that we see that will work in Europe will work here because of our light. Obviously, our light's much brighter in the Southern Hemisphere, and also just the differences in culture and lifestyle as well. So we do filter it, and sometimes we make them a little bit more muddied. Sometimes we have to just strengthen the colour a little bit, because with the lighting, if you've got really subdued colours with very subtle nuances, you won't see the nuances here as much. So you've just got to be a little bit careful with that as well. So that's sort of the process, and it takes months, to be honest, because we research basically as soon as one forecast is out, we start researching the next forecast. We've already started 2024, and it's a forever evolving thing. So it's different than fashion, where you'll get, you know, completely new fashion statements, you know, whether it's seasonal or sub-seasonal. But whereas with interiors, as we know, people don't just buy a $10,000 sofa and throw it out the next year. It doesn't work like that. So it's an evolution of colour. So when you look back at Dulux colour forecast a couple of years, you'll see little changes, you know, nuances where colours have shifted, but not overarching massive shift. Whereas if you look 5 years ago, that's when you'll start to see more shifts in colour. So it is a subtle evolution. You'll still get some colours coming in and out. That's perfectly normal, especially the colours that aren't what we call stayers. So they tend to be more fad colours. Yellow and red tend to fit into those categories, and more cleaner colours as well. So yeah, so it's a really fantastic area. Obviously, the research is ongoing, that we just never stop. But we put a line in the sand, obviously, from around April, just after Milan Design Week, because that is that launch pad of what's happening in the world.
Fantastic. That's so interesting, isn't it? Just to find out a bit about the research and that goes behind it to get to that point.
No, it's fascinating.
On that note, I'll leave it to you to start presenting, I suppose, if you like. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'll just share my screen. And you can tell me whether it's working okay. Is that, you've got a full screen now?
No, not yet.
Oh, because I have.
Oh, have you? It just, can you go, will it let you go to present slideshow?
That's better. Yep.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, sometimes I have to do that on Zoom. It's interesting, like it sort of swaps. All right, well, welcome to the Dulux colour forecast, everyone. I'm going to take you on a little journey, and then I will take you through our palettes. So obviously, with the idea of living simply and authentically has really taken on a whole new appeal. The effects of climate change, waste and overconsumption are realities we no longer can ignore. As a result, we strive to walk more gently on the earth, whether that's with the understanding of the clothes we wear, the food we eat, or the homewares we buy. Luxury was once a byword for ostentation. However, now it's expressed as sustainable luxury and really refers to quality, craftsmanship, and responsible production. And obviously with the work from anywhere arrangements increasingly the norm, we have seen amazing changes in the commercial area as far as flexible spaces in their designs. And that's obviously something we are not going to see change. And even in residential building now, a lot of our new home builders have spoken to us about Zoom rooms. So where, you know, previous to COVID, obviously people would have studies or home offices, but ultimately a lot of them didn't have doors, whereas now all of the offices and home studies are having doors on them. So that's, you know, one little shift that we've seen thanks to COVID. So we've all reacted differently to the upheavals of the last couple of years. Some crave freedom and irreverence, whilst others prefer order and reassurance. So Dulux Colour Forecast 2023 features 3 moving colour palettes that reflect these desires with warm earth-based colours that reinforce a connection with nature, oceanic blues that foster stillness and calm, and eclectic brighter hues to encourage those moments of pure escapism. So welcome to Connect, Balance and Revive. Let's do a deep dive into our first palette of Connect. The Dulux Connect palette reflects our desire for a simpler lifestyle, grounded in nature. Natural and quietly stable hues such as moss, wasabi, sandstone, muddy yellow-green, and a rich purple-brown bring warmth and intimacy to interiors and commercial spaces, and really set a relaxed and welcoming scene that draws people in. Furniture is crafted from raw timber, leather, and rattan with gently curved lines that add to the cozy sanctuary-like vibe. Whilst fabrics are natural and highly textural, think about woven linens, cotton, hemp, and fine woolen knits. Vintage and thrifted furniture sits comfortably alongside bespoke contemporary lighting and furniture made from recycled materials, whilst handcrafted ceramics in organic shapes speak to our continued appreciation for the handmade and unique. So here we have our mood board. So you'll see our mood board reflects the sort of feel of the colours and textures that we're seeing in this Connect palette. So just a couple of things I'll pull from this particular mood board, the Martin Bass smoke chair. This is a vintage piece. Believe it or not, they call this a vintage piece from the early 2000s. And obviously this has been done using smoke and flame applied to the original zigzag chair. So there was a number of different pieces of furniture that Martin had done this charred look. And once again, it was in the early 2000s. And even, you know, top left there, you've got that char cloth. So you can't even imagine the complexity and the unbelievable patience it's taken for this designer to actually do this char cloth without it burning to ashes. It's just incredible. The bottom left image, that beautiful rust image there, is a knitted surface. That's by a designer called Quinn Van Etten. It's called The Present, and it is a gift collection of knitted surfaces made from natural materials. The work aims to stimulate a closer bond between humans and nature. And of course here, what he has used is actually pine cone scales. So you can't even imagine the difficulty in knitted pine cone scales, but it looks amazing. So here we have the colours. Now these are obviously beautiful, warm, earth-based colours. When we're dealing with anything that is earth-based with that browner undertone, and obviously very muted palette, we really need to think about the whites and neutrals that we use. So they really have to be on the warmer side of the scale. Hence, we've used Dulux Whisper White, one of our most loved whites, because it does have that subtle warmth as well. Sandy Day is a really beautiful, warm neutral as well. It's got a bit of ochre, it's got a bit of red, and it's got a little bit of black. And of course, Apparition has that beautiful warm green side. So greens can obviously sit on the warm scale or the cool scale, depending on how much yellow. And we'll find here the greens in this palette all sit on that warmer side. We also have incorporated some beautiful sort of golden tones in Bongo Skin and Beaten Track, even though once again, they're quite muted and pared back. And then those deeper, darker hues, we have Basset Brown, Namaji, which is that beautiful warm charcoal, and of course Hammer Grey in that mid-tone. So how does it look? Obviously, we've got lots of beautiful natural colours here, lots of natural textures. There's no surprise there. That charred look, you know, botanical in print, botanicals, dried flowers again. We're seeing actually dried flowers come back into vogue, which once again, we're on this evolution, this continual cycle. Materials, no surprising, we're seeing obviously beautiful timbers, recycled timber, recycled bricks. We're seeing clay, ceramic, rattan, natural stone, so authentic natural stone, and all of those beautiful natural textiles that I mentioned earlier as well. So working alongside Bree Leach, who's our creative director and also our stylist for our forecast shoot, we found some fantastic homes throughout Victoria. This one is on the Mornington Peninsula, and we were able to decorate and photograph this home, which was just stunning. It was actually quite a new build. So you can see that beautiful wall on the left there, that feature we've done in Stilted Stalks, which is that gorgeous warm green. On the ceiling, we've just got the wasabi on the beams, and of course, Whisper White as our main colour throughout. On the left, there's just a different angle. You can see that Brie has incorporated that beautiful old table, but also including lots of contemporary furniture as well. So a real mix of both. The middle image shows you that gorgeous colour research. Now, this is a really beautiful, deep sort of olive green with lots of yellow. So you can see obviously that coming through as well. But it is a really beautiful chameleon colour, so it can change quite rapidly in light and shadow. The right image there is that beautiful beaten track, which has that subtle warmth. It's got a lot of yellow in it, but obviously with that browner base, it's much more subtle and it's not so much reflective as a pure yellow. Here we have that beautiful neutral in Sandy Day. You know, I mentioned, you know, Sandy Day is a beautiful warm neutral, but it sits really well against browns, taups, toffees, any timbers, all of those sort of natural products as well. And it is a great colour because it sort of recedes back, but it still gives you that subtlety in warmth. On the left there, we have that beautiful apparition, that sort of greyish with that green undertone. And of course, that deep dark brown, basset brown with that really beautiful striking red undertone. The middle image is in the Mungie, and you can see that it looks that charred look. That was sort of the whole purpose of this space. Beautiful room. This was sort of off the side of their pool area. And obviously has that gorgeous stone floor, which just added to the whole character of those natural materials. The end image there is in Cinnamon Sand, which is that really beautiful, almost subtle terracotta sort of tone. And of course, with Sandy Day on the sliding door there, just working beautifully together. This is a large image of the research, that bedroom. You can see that Brie has styled the bed with lots of beautiful natural linens. And you can see the colours that she's used just working beautifully with that really earthy green. Now, I could see this linen also in beautiful, deep, dark, rich chocolate browns and charcoals as well, if you want that really moody sort of look as well. So with using earth-based colours, obviously, they really do work together really well. So you could use them in any ratio. Most of these colours we would see in nature quite often through, you know, leaves changing on trees. We could see them in, you know, on vistas of mountains. You can imagine, you know, these colours we see in our everyday environment. So very easy to use and not too overwhelming as well. This leads us to our next palette of Balance. So the Dulux Balance palette is a refined and reassuring palette of serene marine blues, gentle greens, weathered pastels, and accents of deep garnet that evokes the beauty and fluidity of our oceans and shoreline. Interiors are pared back and considered, with a focus on immersive colour that runs from walls to ceilings, and exquisite detailing such as the sweeping curve of a bedhead or the sliver brass border around a fireplace. These can all help to create living spaces that feel both ordered and classic in their intent. So you can see from our mood board here, there's some really beautiful textures and embellishments, you know, a lot of things that sort of remind us of that ocean as well. In our colour marketing group, Asia Pacific Meet this year, we had a couple of people that really had some fantastic papers on the ocean, and especially around products that are now made from ocean waste. It was a really insightful talk, and it was also fascinating to think, you know, what is going to be in the future. But certainly at the moment, there's a lot of industry around ocean waste, and a lot of ocean waste obviously is discarded plastics that get through stormwater and things like that, as you can imagine. But also a lot of it is discarded fish nets. So discarded fish nets are really one of the highest pollution or waste in our ocean. And a lot of these are fantastic in using for apparel, so garments, also in sneakers. So you'll note that Adidas use them, Reebok and Nike, just, you know, 3 examples there. But a lot of Australian brands are obviously looking at these products as well now. So it's a really fascinating area. Colours, obviously we're seeing some beautiful soft pinks and blues, what you would imagine seeing the inner part of the shell, beautiful all of the blues and teals and aquas you would imagine with ocean and deep ocean as well, but also patterning that emulates, you know, movement. So lots of beautiful, you can see the gorgeous bars there, that blue bars in the bottom right. You can see that sort of almost movement in pattern. You can see on the Dior garment there on the left, you know, obviously lots of beautiful transparency as well. And with the folds and pleats, as that model would walk, you could see how the light reflectance changes that sort of colour as she's walking up the catwalk. And of course, lots of embellishments with shells. You can see that handbag there, and I've seen lots of examples of even shells on the end of shoelaces on some high-end brands. But you can see lots of even not only ocean and shells, but also sea life is a fantastic influence here. So just a couple of things off this board. Above the balance header there, you've got those gorgeous two blue chairs by Ayala Surfety, who's a Spanish designer. And she has created these stunning sculptural pieces with obviously the ocean in mind. So a lot of the colours she has are only in oceanic palettes, interesting enough. And the lines obviously resemble the ripples in the sand. So when we see the colours, it's a really beautiful, soft palette, as well as those deeper, darker tones. So you can imagine these with shells, with shoreline, and then getting into those sort of deeper, darker waters in the Pacific or in many different oceans around the world. So here we have our Casper White Quarter, which is a neutral white, going into our sort of more classic colours or subtle colours. Terrace White, that really soft, subtle grey that has that slight warmth. If anyone wants to use a really neutral green, green alabaster half is the perfect neutral green. It just sits back and recedes. A lot of these lighter, cooler shades will obviously recede back into space. So always make that space feel larger, even though we're not physically changing that space. Then we get into those deeper, darker tones of nephrite and that beautiful mid-tone green. Kimberley Sea, which has that gorgeous blue green. And you can imagine that on a tropical island in the water. And of course, our denim starfish. And then we get into our accent colours of that deep, dark sea kelp, a beautiful red in deep yarn, and of course, domino in our charcoal. So how does it look? Lots of embellishments like you can imagine coral patterning or coral actually used as decor items. We're also seeing, you know, waves and sea anemones and lots of sea life in patterning and beautiful frosted glass back again for coffee tables and tables in general, and also in artwork, which is really lovely to see. You can see here lots of transparency, you know, beautiful transparent shears. That's certainly not going away. We've been seeing that for a couple of years now. But frosted glass, I think, is always a really beautiful, very sort of ethereal sort of finish on any sort of glass piece. You'll see the Lee Nielsen, the exterior upholstery. A lot of exterior upholstery is now being used with recycled materials. It's a very common thing, and it's one of those things that works perfectly because it makes them so robust as well when you're putting in recycled plastics into those particular textiles. So this was a home that we were able to utilise in East Melbourne. So really beautiful inner city home that had been completely renovated. Bree has obviously taken on these blues, you know, subtleties. We've got the pure blue half below the bulkhead there, and then we've got Kimberley Sea on the bulkhead going onto the ceiling. You can see the beautiful furniture and decor items she has used. You know, the ottoman looks like a sea anemone, you know, in that beautiful subtle green. You've got that really high reflectance on that little side table to the right, and lots of blues in the particular furniture pieces, but also just that movement in that beautiful painting that she has selected. On the left there, we have Domino with Casper White Quarter, and Casper White Quarter allows those beautiful decor items to really show their focus, I suppose. The middle image shows you that beautiful sea kelp, that big dark blue, and of course terrace white on the outer side. Now, when you're using these tonal colours, especially if you're using, you know, blues from one hue family and you're just changing it up between tone and shade, often it's important to use like what we call an anchor. Here she's used that deep garnet colour in the chair, And of course, red is a short wave colour. So it means that we are going to always see that first. That will come into our vision first. So it's a great way of bringing the eye in and then being able to really, get that feel for that overarching scheme in that space. Above the fireplace there, we have actually real coral as an artwork, which is just sensational. It was so fragile. Brie had to use her little cotton white gloves to get it out of the box. But, just a beautiful, subtlety in those colours. On the right there, we have the beautiful blue and green together, nephrite with Kimberley C. You can see nephrite's also on the ceiling, but of course, being a flat ceiling, we will always get those nuances in shadow. And of course, we don't have direct light on the ceiling as well, which also changes the whole look and feel of that colour. You can see how the colour is getting darker towards the right-hand side where the light is not penetrating as much as well. Beautiful denim sort of colour in starfish here, very sort of moody space. I love how Brie also has anchored with the red on the chair and also on the bed there in that cushion, just to sort of add something. On the left there, just a different view of that beautiful lounge space with the pure blue half and Kimberley C. You can see a little bit more of that bulkhead going into the ceiling now. The middle image there is in Mornington, that really beautiful, soft, neutral, had that subtle warmth, of course. And of course, you can see the ocean sort of feel with that wave-like bedhead. On the right there, this elegant space is the green alabaster half with Casper white border. This is, perfect simplicity. It's absolutely such a subtle colour that just sits back and allows everything to sort of, be highlighted. And once again, we've used this green alabaster half in this living area. You can see Bree's also utilised it on the ceiling as well, but it's such a beautiful soft colour. It would work anywhere. And she's also kept it quite tonal there with the furniture in green as well. So when you see these colours, these are all very natural colours as well. It's just a different sort of natural to what we saw in the Connect palette. So once again, a lot of these are cooler colours. So when you have them in a space, they will recede. And also they are colours we see in nature. So they're not colours that are unfamiliar to us. So often when you're dealing with clients and you're dealing with more natural colours in any elements, whether it's paint or any other product or fixture that you're actually selecting with them, it's important, I suppose, to understand that natural colours are always going to be a lot more we're going to be a lot more open to them than we are, I suppose what we say in synthetic colours, so those brighter, more chromatic colours. So our final palette is our fun palette, which is Revive. Let me take you on this journey of Revive. So the Dulux Revive palette is a little deeper than our last year's palette of Wonder. So the only difference is it draws down the same philosophy, and that is out with the so-called design rules and in with personal expression. We have mustardy yellows, breezy blues, rose pink, lavender, and a striking emerald, all splashed across everything from walls to furniture to create spaces that instantly make us smile. There's a standout in this palette as well, and that is that green. You can see that Marimekko dress there in that beautiful emerald green. And there'll be some really interesting ways of how we're going to see this used in our market as well. Mixing nostalgic elements such as 80s style colour blocking and mid-century style furniture will give this look, the look is actually best described as the term retrofuturism. I love that, because it also speaks directly to the digital generation with a focus on creating those Instagrammable moments. So this is about the past and the future all moulded into one. And we can see here a couple of examples. I mentioned the Marimekko in that beautiful emerald green. You can see on the right there with Cartel, that gorgeous immersive yellow space with those beautiful side tables. And once again, they can be customized to whatever you wanted to change the colors, which is really great. We have that beautiful light in the middle bottom image there by Marjan van Orbel. It's called Sun, S-U-N-N-E. It is actually a light that harvests light during the day, interior light, that is. So it pulls in light from windows during the day and actually becomes a light at night. So it's almost like our solar light for the interior. So there's some fantastic innovation in lighting happening. So as far as colour, there's a lot of really beautiful clean colours on this particular palette. And we certainly are not saying to use them all in one space, but certainly, you know, if you chose one or two and really wanted to bring in decor items in some beautiful colour, this is where you can have some fun. We've used Lexicon Quarter because it is one of our most purest whites alongside Vivid White. So this will work with cleaner colours. You don't really want to use those cooler, you know, blue-based whites, if you like, or even those warmer, more ochre whites with clean colours. It always will work well with a purest white. We have some yellows in here, our paper brown, which is that beautiful, gorgeous sort of tan, but it has a lot of yellow in it. And it is actually quite muddied as well. So it's quite muted, but when you see it, it still packs a punch. We have some beautiful mid-tone colours in diorite, that gorgeous subtle green, and of course, breezy huff and that cleaner blue as well. Our pinks and purples, of course, and into our accents of Purple Celebration Integra, and of course, our key colour in Pharaoh's Gem. So how does it look? We have some really interesting things in products now, and a lot of this is influenced from the metaverse. So a lot of young designers in particular are using the metaverse to really come up with some fantastic concepts in design. And of course, with the aid of 3D printing, these items in their metaverse can now come to life in our real world. So there's some really fantastic shapes and designs and really innovative things that we're seeing. You can see obviously some lighting here by objects for objects, and that's that sort of iridescent sort of look. We're seeing that more and more in lighting as well, and in glassware. Also, you know, those sort of chubby furniture, you know, where they look almost like animated, brought out into the real world. We're seeing a lot of that, and immersive colour as well. Materials, you know, a real mix of materials. You know, we're seeing everything from glass to ceramic to obviously even paper mache. You can see in the top right corner there, that is something that you would see in the metaverse, and obviously the designer's been able to bring that into real world products, which is incredible. Tetri objects there, you know, they remind me of something like Bakelite products of the 60s, but it's got a new age feel, almost with that transparent look as well, and also the colorways are quite different. So here we have a beautiful sort of modernist home. This was quite a new home that was built about 4 years ago, but has fantastic modernist features. Here we have some really fantastic colours. We have the day glow above the fireplace. We have golden sand just on that one wall to the right. Lexicon Quarter as our main colour, and Perplex just on the ceiling. Of course, Bree's had a lot of fun bringing in colour and different textures into the furnishings. On the left there, we have Perplexed on that fluted panel. We also have that gorgeous paper brown I mentioned before on that right-hand side. And you can see how much brighter it looks against that Lexicon Quarter as well on that kitchen. The middle image shows you how beautiful a coloured ceiling can be, especially in those soft, subtle colours like Breezy Huff. It almost gives you that feel like it's a sunny day. You know, the sun is shining, it's a beautiful blue, crisp sky. On the right there, you can see that beautiful diorite on the wall behind the bed, and of course, Pharaoh's Gem on the ceiling. You know, those two colours work so perfectly together. This is another viewing of that room. I love this space because, one, it gives you that feeling of joy and happiness. And using a subtle colour on the ceiling is a really great way of getting colour into a space without overwhelming it. So it doesn't have a lot of impact on the furnishings, which is fantastic from a light reflectance perspective and surrounding colour, which it means if you wanted to use that really subtlety on the ceiling, on a flat roof ceiling, of course, because you have that diffuse lighting, it doesn't bring the colour down. So it's a really great way of using colour without overwhelming the space. On the left there, we have Princess Pink on that left wall and Lexicon Quarter. The middle image just gives you a different viewing of that beautiful lounge space. And you can see that side table in the very front, that's made from 100% recycled materials. On the right, just for something a bit more dramatic, we've used Purple Celebration just on the ceiling with Lexicon Quarter. And of course, in that middle image, once again, you know, those subtleties of using those beautiful, soft, ethereal colours, you know, Lexicon Quarter on the walls, but just using that breezy half just on that small ceiling with that skylight coming through. It just gives you a beautiful feel, very soothing. On the right there, you've got pink chi on that front door for a bit of fun. You have Lexicon Quarter as the main colour. And Bree's just done one wall, just as you walk up that hallway, in that beautiful paper brown and breezy house striping. So the colours, as I mentioned before, these are much cleaner colours, much brighter colours, and certainly colours that you would want to use thinking about your volume, you know, how much you use and how much focus you want to put on that wall or whatever object that you're using the colour. And also you can bring in a lot of decor items in these colours to really make it really interesting sort of entrance. All of these colours are available in A4s and also colour stickers. So for our consumers out there, they are already getting these, and obviously A4 samples are always the best way to view colour for better colour perception. Now that is my colour forecast. I'm going to stop sharing now, and then hopefully we'll have some questions. Thank you.
Okay, guys, don't be shy. Have we got any questions? Nick,
Is there anything in the chat there?
We haven't had any questions come through. Kim did put a hand up, but I don't know if that was an accident or not. But
I can see a hand
still
up.
there. Oh, she does have a hand up. Yep. So Gab, I think, how do people talk?
Hang on, I've lost. Was it Kim?
Yeah.
Try now, Kim.
There we are.
Hi, the chat's disabled. That's why I don't think there's any questions.
Oh no.
Oh, is it? Oh, hang on.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's good.
I didn't really have a question though. It was just fascinating. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Kim. I'm glad.
Gosh, it was just so much information. My mind was going crazy.
I know. I'm sorry. We almost need like 2 hours to do this, to do it properly, but I think it's just really good to inspire you to think about using colour more.
Yeah, probably one thing that I would like to know, if it's okay, is just the whites that you used in each theme. If you could just go over that again and just just explain that a little bit more carefully.
Sure. So basically we've used a warm white in that earth-based scheme. So the warm white there we've used in the brighter scheme, we've had to use a more purest white because of the cleanness of those colours.
Yeah.
And of course the balanced palette, we've used a neutral white with those blues and greens.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully that helps. Excuse
me.
It
does.
Did anyone have any other questions?
We've got someone at the door.
Or comments?
Any other questions, comments, favourite colours?
Liz? Gab, are you able to unmute Liz?
Try now, Liz. See if you can talk.
She's still muted.
Talking permitted. Can you talk, please? Ask to. You're still.
Maybe
muted.
Liz can unmute herself.
Ask to unmute. Can you unmute, Liz?
There we go. Hi, Liz.
Oops. Just running late. Oh, not sure what's going on there. Yeah, if you type in your question, Liz. While Liz is typing, I think the what was it? The Revive palette is a really awesome. I think the way you explained it was really lovely, because I get a lot of students in colour talking about you know, like being scared to use colour, and like how do you either convince yourself as an emerging designer or clients. And I think the way that it was just described was fantastic, in the use of, like, you know, the ceiling colour, or just even bringing it more out in those decor items. I think it was really
right. It's a great way of bringing colour, you know, and the good thing is people are not as fearful of doing that as well as they are painting a whole wall or something. So, you know, often in those brighter sort of hues, I think that's a really easy, it's just easy to achieve in decor, bed linen, things like that.
awesome.
Were you able to talk, Liz, or?
She's got a question. She said she forgot about the daylight savings time factor, but what are the most important factors when choosing a white? Is that what your question is, Liz?
Yeah, so white are always undertones when choosing white. So to understand undertones, the easiest way is to compare other whites together. So when you have your color chips, you look at them together always on a vertical axis, because obviously if they're flat, you're going to get more direct light. Paint normally goes on the wall on a vertical axis. So it's really important to, when you're working with clients, when you finish your course, always show clients on a vertical axis if you're dealing with paint.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments? I'm conscious that you have a flight to get.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If there was anything else, Gab, did you have anything else to add?
Well, if anyone has any questions, they can always send them to me via Gab anyway. And yeah, we can just do that. Someone just asked about the numbering of the color chips. It's just, that is just where the chip sits on the retail color wall. And the W after Lily Lock, the example there is just white base.
Awesome. Yeah.
We might get you to come back next year, Andrea, to talk us through the atlas.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to do the colour training again. I think it's always a good refresher anyway.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for everybody to understand how the code.
Yeah, more than happy to do that.
When we had our campus, we used to take them through, and it was great because everyone got to see and, you know,
yes,
flick through. But being an online course now, it's a bit harder. So
it is. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone's inspired to go and use more colour and have a bit of fun. Remember, if you don't like it, you can always paint over it. That's the beauty of paint.
I love that. I say that too. Just paint over it.
Yeah, it's only paint. What's the worst thing that can happen? So, and the most important thing is always, you utilising the Dulux sample pots or the larger swatches to really understand how that colour performs in your light with surrounding colour in your space. Very important.
Perfect. Thanks so
All
much.
right. Thanks everyone for having me. All the best.
Have a nice conference.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.